Hey guys, before we start the episode, I just want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by Audible.com. You know me, I love print media, but audiobooks are pretty awesome. And if you agree with me about audiobooks being awesome and want to help out the channel, you can go to this link, audibletrial.com/BlackScarabFilmZ, to get a 30-day free trial and one free audiobook. My personal recommendation this month is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy radio plays. While I still prefer the novels as the definitive way to experience the story, the radio plays, especially with the fact that the casting is damn near impeccable, make for a great listen on long commutes. But if that's not your taste, there are thousands of other audiobooks on Audible, so I'm sure you'll find something you like. Good luck, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Let's get to it. Hello and welcome to the Literary Lair. Brad Meltzer is one of my favorite authors ever. No joke, his Culper Ring trilogy is one of the only series that I've read where once I finished it for the first time, I wanted to read it again almost immediately. And he doesn't just do political thrillers, he's got something for everyone. He has children's books about historical and notable pop culture figures, and he's written for DC Comics several times. Admittedly, one of his big stories was Identity Crisis, which is very polarizing, but I actually really liked it. But this is as someone whose comic background included none of the development for the characters that everyone else had when it came out. What I'm saying is that I'm a pretty big fan of his work, and I'm not sure if it's the writing, or the fact that he's originally from Brooklyn, and so it's a matter of local pride. Regardless, his books are awesome. However, as much as I loved those, his latest thriller, The House of Secrets, absolutely blew me away. I had waited on reading it. It came out last June, and I bought it last fall, and didn't get around to reading it until a few months ago, and holy crap, it's amazing. I mean, I know I say that a lot, but this might just be my new favorite Brad Meltzer book. In fact, it might just be one of my new favorite books in general. Truth be told, I've been planning a review of The Inner Circle, the first Culper Ring book, for over a year now, but because it's been so long since I read it, and I have to go back and read it again to do the review, it kept getting put on the back burner so I could read other stuff for the show and for my own non-review reading. My intention was to use The Inner Circle as the springboard for his thrillers, since we looked at his Decoded book way back in 2014. But once I read this, I decided to throw that idea away and use The House of Secrets instead. Anyway, while they're both thrillers, they are very different. While the Culper Ring trilogy involves an archivist discovering conspiracies connecting him, a former classmate, presidential assassins, their fathers, and aspiring set up by George Washington, this book involves a woman discovering what exactly went on behind the scenes of her father's television show. A series not too dissimilar to Brad Meltzer's own Lost History in Decoded, where the woman's father tracked down and researched conspiracies that may have led to his and several other murders made to look like accidents. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Let's go and check out The House of Secrets. The cover is phenomenal. It's the silhouette of a woman, presumably our main character Hazel, holding a pistol, while two smaller silhouettes stand in her head, what I take to be Hazel and her father. And this is all overlaid onto an aged piece of paper with some sort of writing on it. And once I get to the story, you'll have an idea of what it's supposed to be. This one is notable because all the credit can't go to Brad Meltzer for this book. Some of it goes to Todd Goldberg, who collaborated with Meltzer on this. Goldberg has written some original novels based on the television series Burn Notice, in addition to several anthologies. Regardless, the cover is brilliant. Anyway, let's get to the story. The story centers around Hazel Ann Nash, an anthropology professor with a rather strange case of amnesia. See, she was in a car accident after her father invited her and her brother Skip, not that one, out on a road trip like they had done when they were kids. And in the spirit of that, Hazel and Skip get into arguments every 5 seconds as their father threatens to turn the car around this instant. During the trip, he tells them that he's going to be stepping down and ending his wildly popular television show, The House of Secrets, a show where he traveled around the globe searching for conspiracies and the answers to them. During the car ride, he suddenly has a heart attack and they crash. Their father is killed on impact, and Skip comes out no worse for wear, but Hazel has amnesia. Her brain was damaged where she lost her memory, but not like Hollywood amnesia. She still has all her knowledge, but things with emotional connection she isn't as strong on, like how she feels about her brother or the identities of people close to her. While in the hospital, Hazel and Skip are approached by an FBI agent, Trevor Rabkin, who was sent to investigate the mysterious death of a man, Darren Nixon, wearing a Revolutionary War-era coat previously owned by their father, found with a Bible in his chest, which Hazel recognizes as being similar to a riddle her father told her as a child. The riddle is as follows. A dead man is found with a Bible in his chest with no apparent entry wound. How did it get there? Man, the Riddler got dark in his old age, didn't he? The solution is that there is no Bible and someone is trying to trick you, so there's more to this Darren Nixon thing than it first seemed. Hazel's plot in the novel is kicked off when she discovers that she had been to several places that her father had visited on his show shortly before the accident, and because she can't remember why, she has to find out if it's connected to the murder. Starting a quest to discover the connection between her father, and two murders, as another man with a presidential last name, Arthur Kennedy, is found dead in a similar fashion in Dubai. Skip's plot in the book is that he heads to Dubai to investigate the other murder, as well as hold up their father's legacy, as pages of Benedict Arnold's Bible were an artifact that their father had been searching for on his show for years. We also get some side plot from a man known only as the Bear, who, as far as we know, is a sinister figure who seems to be keeping a very close eye on both Hazel and Skip as they start getting closer to the truth. But we found out who the Bear was last week.
You know, Mr. Wilkins, we wouldn't be asking you to do this if it weren't for the fact that the Bear insisted upon you being the escort.
Well, how could the Bear know about me?
Because you've already met her in Istanbul. Natalia Rambova of the KGB.
Natalia.
Though, if this was the same Bear, this would be a very different book. Hazel's discoveries lead her to her father's old assistant Ingrid, who agrees to let Hazel in on the secret. Her father's show wasn't actually a show. It was a front for secret government operations, smuggling people out of foreign and sometimes war-torn countries, at the behest of the U.S. government, those people being referred to as pages of Benedict Arnold's Bible. One such event went south, the one where Darren Nixon was brought to America for treatment, but his father demanded Skip, who had accompanied Jack Nash and was 7 at the time, as collateral. Everyone's freaking out, and in the scuffle, Skip manages to steal the father's gun and shoots it, which manages to get him out of there with Jack and Ingrid. In the present, the Bear catches up with Hazel and Ingrid at Nixon's storage unit, and he reveals that he was hired not to hurt Hazel and Skip, but to protect them from whatever retribution could occur to them, having been one of the children saved by Jack Nash, and that required eliminating everyone involved with Jack Nash's past. Hazel fights back and kills him, running off to leave Ingrid to dispose of the body. After she leaves, the Bear wakes up, having not died, and he kills Ingrid, who allows him as she regrets what her and Jack did. The show's government contact, Louis Moten, also Rabkin's boss at the FBI, confronts Hazel and they get into a scuffle where Moten shoots Rabkin and Hazel shoots Moten, killing him. Skip goes into the wind due to his part in it all, and we learn that Skip is only Hazel's half-brother, their mother having been one of the pages of the Bible that their father brought to America. The novel ends with Hazel having a relatively normal life as her and Rabkin, who survived his encounter with Moten, become friends. Salutations. And did you know that Brad Meltzer was instrumental in finding the American flag raised by firefighters over Ground Zero on 9/11? It was missing for almost 15 years, and through his series, Lost History, he... Hey, what the hell are you doing? We'll be right back. Get out of here. The nerve of some people. And we're back with more of the show. And did you know that Brad Meltzer also fought Billy the Marlin in a lightsaber battle? The characters in this book, every single character that appears, are so real and genuine that it makes the book so much better for it. It's actually really cool how Hazel is rediscovering everything, so we see most of the characters through Hazel's perception, and with her contextualizing everything to what she knows. I mean, because Hazel sees them as a bad guy, I saw Rabkin as a bad guy until she turned around and joined him. I didn't even consider that Rabkin could have been on the level, and it was just Hazel's amnesia and her not knowing him making her think he was the bad guy. There's also a part with one of Hazel's friends from before the accident, Butchie. He's a really good character and an interesting way to look at Hazel's old life that she doesn't remember and show us what she was like and who she associated with. He's like this big, possibly shady, possibly involved with illegal operations guy, but Hazel, and by extension the reader, doesn't know anything about him other than the fact that he knows and is very good friends with Hazel, and it makes you wonder about what type of person the main character is, despite the fact that we've been following the main character for the entire course of the novel so far. It's also interesting how, despite the fact that her father and brother are major players in the story, we don't actually know anything about them, at least not any more than Hazel does, and I think that enhances the story, because it's an interesting gimmick to, instead of seeing the journey of her discovering her father's secrets, that she discovers her father's secrets while her own life is a complete mystery to her, and she has two fronts of secrets to uncover. And Moten was around for the entire book advising Rabkin, and I just assumed he was being a normal government stooge trying to stop whatever it was that Hazel was uncovering. I wasn't prepared to find out that he was embroiled in the whole thing. Though I probably should have expected it from the Culper Ring trilogy. Even the dead characters, Nixon and Kennedy, managed to be compelling and really interesting once we learn about them. I also really liked Hazel and how, despite everything, she was shown to be a generally good person, despite her possibly checkered past. Skip is good too. He's very focused on protecting his sister, like a brother should, but it's also worth noting that his ending isn't only good for the fact of protecting him from retribution, but also because he spent his entire life in the spotlight with his dad, and by going on the run, he can live a quiet, non-televised life. And even all of the major players like Ingrid and the scant bits we get with Hazel and Skip's mother are just as developed and three-dimensional as the characters that have the main focus. And the bear is really good too. Really, there's nothing more I can say other than the fact that he's shady for the entire book, and it makes us think that he's the bad guy, and then we find out that he's actually not the bad guy, and apparently immortal. But other than that, all the characters are phenomenal, and this is possibly the best character-driven books I've ever read. The book is non-stop action and excitement, as is common with a lot of Meltzer's stories. I was on the edge of my seat the entire time. The idea that a television show is a front for a government operation really makes you think. What other shows could be a front like that? I knew it! Jersey Shore was a secret government operation to create the worst of the worst! Apart from that, there was a lot of good action that took Hazel all around searching for clues on the murder victim. And it was varied. It wasn't just check out his house and do the normal police procedural stuff. It was check out his house, the secret backyard shed with all his info in it, check up on what he's been researching, which featured a really neat cameo from Beecher White, the main character from the Inner Circle. No joke, when I saw his name in the book, my face lit up. I don't know if that has far-reaching consequences or whether it's meant to imply that the books take place in the same universe, but it's something that Meltzer and Goldberg didn't need to include, but it makes me love the book even more. Meltzer is always good at non-stop action, and whatever part of this was Todd Goldberg, I have no doubt that he's fantastic at it as well. The twists and turns in the story. Is the bear the villain? Is it Hazel, Butchie, Skip? I had never suspected the big twist, and that's a big part of my enjoyment of the novel. It's not a stock thriller where the bad guy is who you think it is from the start. I'd have never predicted the ending to this, and that makes the experience so much richer. If you read this, you'll never want to put it down until you're done. The book is phenomenal. I mean, I can't even put into words how amazing this book is and how much I love it. It's so very rare that I get to say that this book doesn't really have any flaws whatsoever. The characters are great, the action is great, the story has twists and turns that keep you on your toes for the entire course of the novel. Admittedly, the entire reasoning that the characters suspect the related murder conspiracy has something to do with the show, that Kennedy and Nixon are both presidential last names, is pretty stupid. But I say that as the guy who knew that Benedict Cumberbatch's Star Trek Into Darkness character wasn't who he said he was, because John Harrison was a mix of two Beatles names. But seriously, I love this book. If you have never read anything by Brad Meltzer, this is a good starting point, because it's not quite as dense as his Culper Ring stuff, and at least how I see it, seems to be pretty self-contained. Sure, he could do a sequel, but everything's wrapped up tight, so this is a good jumping on point. I highly, 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 insert me saying highly like 16 more times here, recommend this book. If you've only read the Culper Ring stuff, you'll love it. And if you haven't read anything from him before, this is the best place to start. I can't sing its praises enough. If you like political thrillers and haven't read Meltzer's stuff, or if you read Identity Crisis and it turned you off of his writing, I implore you to give it another shot. If only just to experience this masterpiece of literature. And that was The House of Secrets. Was it good? Oh, hell yeah. It was great. One of the best books I've read this year by far. I should start doing best of lists for the year. Add that one to the notepad. Like I said, it's a great read, and one of, if not Brad Meltzer's best. Him and Goldberg did a phenomenal job of not only creating a compelling narrative, but creating a way to experience it that is unlike any other book I've read to date. I regret waiting this long to read it. Check this one out. You will not be disappointed. Anyway, that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more episodes of the Literary Lair, you can hit the subscribe button and check out the channel for other videos. Also, hit that bell icon if you want to be notified of new uploads. If you have any comments or complaints about the video, you can put those in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video, show it to your friends and share it around the internet. And maybe consider supporting the show on Patreon. Speaking of Patreon, I'm doing my first viewer request poll over there. This one is open for everyone, mind you, so regardless if you're a patron or not, you can vote. It's just about time for the yearly Sliders review, and since I've exhausted all the really heinous stuff, I want to give some choice to it. The choices are El Cid, Lipschitz Live, or To Catch a Slider. They're all pretty bad, but it's up to you to see which one I have to be subjected to again. The polls will be open until next Friday's episode goes out on YouTube. Happy voting, and I'll see you next time for a really good show with one of the worst finales in television history. No, not that one. It was missing for almost 15 years. Through his 15 years. It's not in the series Lost History.